Welcome to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast, where insights, attitudes, and methods for success get illuminated. Learn what leaders and change workers have done and are doing now to create magnificent futures. We interview great guests who inspire you to overcome obstacles and achieve your goals. Be sure you visit our website at self-helpcoaching.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, just relax as you listen. You can do something else, but be ready to make an important note. And let's get started.
The title of this interview is How to Transform Conflict into Intimacy. Our guest is a unique relationship mentor who helps couples transform conflict into intimacy and women to attract and inspire their man to fulfill their deepest needs and desires. A highly successful alternative to relationship therapy, our guest helps women and couples create a secure emotional connection, not just problem solving or communication skills. She holds numerous certifications in coaching, NLP, and emotional healing modalities. She is the author of the book, The Commitment Roadmap, From Dating to a Lifetime of Love. Having worked with thousands of clients from around the globe since 2005, she leads workshops, retreats, and online courses for women and couples, and creates custom coaching programs to help people attract, reignite, and sustain lasting love. Ladies and gentlemen, and others, Valerie Greene.
Oh, thanks so much, Tony. I really love speaking with you. We were just chatting. I think we've known each other for at least 10 years, I think, or almost 10 years.
We met at a workshop, maybe at Melissa Tears.
Yes, that's
Tears
it.
Center for Integrative Hypnosis.
Yes.
And I was already an NLP practitioner, and I remember when I first met you, you're stunning, beautiful. So I'm like, wow, who's this beauty? But you got a brain behind those eyes. So that was very, very cool. And we talked, we became friends very quickly. As a matter of fact, you were one of my first friends in the workshop. I'm always making friends.
Yes.
And you have had a wonderful career. This is great how you have really, just turned pro. It's fantastic.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah. Took a while. I've been coaching since 2005. So,
but you really made a niche though, and that's where it's at.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you too. You've done so many things. We were just talking, because you do NLP and you're a filmmaker, I'm really intrigued by everything you do.
I had a life coaching practice, which I closed officially in 2018. And I created a new technological coaching, a whole new kind of coaching, true self-help coaching. And it's we've been working at it for years to launch it. We're going to launch it finally. And this is going to be a game changer for the world. Talk about niches. Self-help will be transformed by this new product, which makes self-help actually work. I love self-help, but if it really worked, I would have been a millionaire a long time ago. So we'll make it.
We could talk a lot about that, of course.
Yeah, that's a very universal topic. But let's talk about you. I have you on this podcast to talk about you. Now, let's say 90% Valerie, 10% Tony. Okay.
And of course, I'm here to talk about how both individuals and couples can stop recurring conflict and actually connect on a deeper level. So,
how do you transform conflict into intimacy?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. So the first thing that I have to say about that, and this was certainly my journey, because I grew up in a household where my parents were really loving, but they had a rule that they would never fight in front of me. So I never got to see what it looked like to resolve conflicts. And I used to actually fight with my dad a lot because he would make me wrong and then I would be defensive. And so it took me a while to learn this too. And I just want to say that right out of the gate that nobody grows up knowing these skills. We have to learn them from somewhere. Nobody teaches them in school, unfortunately. Gosh, wouldn't it be amazing if they did? So the first mindset shift that I had to learn that I want people to take in is that conflict is not something to be avoided. that's, you know, what most of us, myself included, used to do. And that the mindset shift is that instead conflict is an opportunity. If two people, I know it doesn't occur as that, but if two people have different views on a subject, it's an opportunity to find out on a deeper level, when you get curious, why is their point of view important to them? What does the other person need underneath their upset? You know, what are their important values? What's important to them in life? Because if we're upset, the more upset we are, the more important something is to us. And I'll share more about this later, but it's not usually about the issue on the surface. It's not about the dishes. It's not about money. It's not about, you know, parenting styles. It's about what those things mean to them on a deeper emotional level. And if you can get past your initial defenses, which I'll talk about with the mistakes, and have curiosity to really get what the strength of your partner's upset, why they're so upset, like not why the story, as you know, you know, of course we have to listen to the story, but why in terms of what are their deeper emotional needs, what are their deeper values, what are their what's their dream and their vision for what it is that they want. And their history, you know, really giving empathy about this is such an important issue for them, because it's been going on their whole life. You know, once we really feel seen by our partner on a deeper level for those things, that's what really creates a secure emotional connection. And that's what keeps relationships alive.
Wow, what a wonderful reframe, turning conflict into opportunity. As a matter of fact, you know, in personal development, we say feelings are signals. You know,
Yep.
they're not to be run from, they're
Yep.
to be observed, embraced even. And,
Yes.
and here, whether it be the conflict, whether it be internal or external, wherever it is, it's an opportunity. That's the way to change things up.
Exactly. And I love that you said internal, because I also help my clients, because in order to be curious about someone else, when they're upset, you first have to learn how to be curious about yourself. When you have a feeling that you don't like exactly what you said, feelings are signposts to point out, like, hey, you have a deeper need, you have a deeper value, you have a deeper desire or dream. And if you suppress the feeling, you never really get to learn more deeply about what's important to yourself.
It's essential in coaching. Whatever a client wants a goal or wants to go somewhere, we have to find out where they are first. And a feeling is where you're at. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, it's a transitory thing, but what are you feeling? What's happening? That's where you're at the moment. That's essential to be cognizant of that, to have that wherewithal. And a lot of times people need to be guided for that, because they're like, no, ooh, intense feeling, anger, sadness, ooh, no, denial, whatever. And that just is not conducive to, working through it.
Yeah, exactly. And I know, I was just like smiling as you were saying that, but I'm just smiling because you have such an entertaining personality, which is probably what makes you so good at making people feel safe, expressing their feelings, because that is the thing, is that we need to, in order to feel safe, feeling and expressing our feelings, we have to have an attitude of self-compassion, compassion for others, because it's actually not funny, right? It's like actually really, when you're sad or you're angry, etc., it's not fun. It's something that all of us, myself included, have a tendency to avoid, right? I mean, I'm sure you've studied triune brain theory, and that, like, even if we say we want to feel our feelings, then when we get sad or angry, most of us are controlled by our programming, right? Which comes which is right, fight or flight, because our body is designed to survive, not to make us happy. But as you know, and as every self-help guru knows, that when we want something, we have to embrace the resistance and be willing to live outside our comfort zone, and at the edge of our comfort zone, right? Because then we shut down, and to be able to validate our defenses, like, oh, this defense is coming up, let me use whatever tools I have to be able to transform it, as opposed to just suppressing it, right?
Totally. Valerie, obviously you really know what you're talking about. By the way, I recall I went with my then girlfriend to a workshop of yours. I think it was about 2015 or so. And we still wound up breaking up, so I blame you. No, I'm kidding. What you were professing was so invaluable. But when when a person gives you knowledge and or principles or wisdoms that can be either helpful or transformative, if you don't take the help, if you're not willing to do the work, you ain't going to get anything. Right?
Exactly.
And that's
Right. There's that joke about how many coaches or therapists does it take to change a light bulb?
I think it's 17.
Right. I know. I'm always working with like several practitioners just because I'm like, let's do it. But no, it's only one. It's just that the light bulb has to want to change.
Exactly. Let's just take a quick moment to hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with Valerie Greene.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Proficio. When people learn something, they want to use it, so it has real value. And the best teacher is experienced. Visit www.proficio.io. That's PERFICIO.io, where Proficio will have you taking action with what you're learning immediately. You'll be closer to your goals before you even realize it.
You are listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with Valerie Greene. Valerie, are there different fighting styles, and do they sabotage intimacy?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. I prefer to call them fighting styles because I think it's more fun to know, oh, what's my fighting style, right? Because it's not as I don't know what the word is, like embarrassing as saying what's my attachment style, because actually the fighting styles are based on the attachment styles, and attachment research has really blown up in the past 20 years, which is amazing because they say 50% of the population has an insecure attachment style. And if you have an insecure attachment style and it's unhealed, and I look at an attachment style as just being a skill set that you can learn, and that is what the research shows. It's about healing old wounds and learning skills. But then if you don't do that, it's going to cause recurring conflict. That's just the cycle that most of us get caught in, myself included. And so I call them fighting styles because they're fun. And we'll focus on there's actually 4 attachment styles. It's anxious, preoccupied, dismissive avoidant, then there's the fearful avoidant, which is also called ambivalent, and then there's secure, which is how we all aspire to be. But like I said, I'm going to talk about fighting styles, and so I'm going to focus on the 2 that are the biggest cause of recurring conflict, which I call the tiger and the turtle. And the tiger.
By the way, I didn't hear you mention my fighting style, Jeet Kune Do. That's a
martial. Oh yes,
that's a martial arts that I practice. But yes,
like when you're fighting with your partner, you're like, take that.
Right. Oh, this is my emotional attachment. My mother didn't do this. My father didn't do that. It's so funny, but you're so right. Our attachments, things we can't let go of. That's the things that hinder us the most, or reoccur until we resolve them. It's just incredible.
I know. And I mean, one of the next mindset shift that I want to share around it, which really comes from Susan Johnson's work. And she's one of the top researchers about attachment, and her modality of emotionally focused therapy, I believe still has the highest success rate because it focuses on the attachment styles and how to create secure attachment, which is usually what's really underneath recurring conflict. And so the mindset shift is to not blame your partner when you get caught in this recurring cycle. I actually teach couples, and this comes from Sue Johnson's work, how to name the cycle and then be like, oh my God, we're caught in the whirlwind again. Okay, let's get out of it, as opposed to you did this or you didn't do that, right? Because like that then feeds the cycle. And so, I mean, I'll share that, but of course now I'll talk more about it. So the anxious, preoccupied type, I call the tiger, because these are all defenses, right? It's a defense against feeling hurt. That's, what we create these defenses when we're very young because we feel hurt and we either go into fight or flight. Usually that's our pattern, or freeze, but I'll lump freeze into the flight category because, even though you're still here, you're checked out, right? And, I don't want to judge that. I mean, there's so many somatic experiencing, so many modalities that help people get back into their bodies. But, so it's either usually the fighting style is when you feel hurt, or because anger is a reactive emotion. And so there's a softer emotion underneath, like hurt or fear or shame or something like that. So in order to avoid feeling that, we either get angry and fight and blame the other person. And that is more the tiger fighting style, which is usually the anxious attachment goes to fight because it's just that they're more in touch with their anger than they are with their they're more in touch with their feelings. But usually they're only in touch with the anger. So the healing is that they can access the softer emotions underneath. And then the second fighting style I call the turtle, because they withdraw into their shell. You'll see, so the tiger will approach a conflict like, you did this or you didn't do that, and I'm really upset about it, and this has to change. But you notice how it's fight, right? It's like you're the other person, unless they're really skilled in going, like being curious about you, then it's going to push the other person away. So the fight emotion, the fight energy pushes the other person away. And so the healing is learning how to tap into your softer feelings and really get in touch with what you want underneath it rather than what you don't want, because that's what's inspiring, is to talk about what you want, rather than what you don't want. And of course, to be curious about what the other person wants and create a win-win. And then the other fighting style, the turtle, they usually, when they feel attacked, they withdraw. They'll either withdraw by getting defensive, which you can tell is just like a defense against them feeling, oh, I'm doing it wrong, like feeling that inadequacy. They'll get defensive, or they'll get overwhelmed. We see this a lot. It's like called getting flooded. It's like a circuit breaker that has reached its capacity and it shuts off. That's the freeze response. Sometimes it could be disassociating, but it's just like, oh my God, I can't handle this. I'm overwhelmed. I just can't, I'm shutting down, right? And they're not even usually aware that they're shutting down. It's just happening. Or they'll be dismissive and say something like, you're being a child. I'm going to go into the other room and talk to me when you're calm,
By the way, this is obviously fantastic information. I listened to your podcast recently. I think it was Alicia Devon you had on there. Fantastic. Oh, yeah. So listeners, viewers, check out Valerie's podcast. At the end, we'll give the info. But I totally endorse it, recommend it. Great stuff from both you and your guest. You guys were talking about things I never heard of before. Zoom dates. We're in the age of Zoom dates. Oh my God.
No, well, I mean, COVID.
Oh yeah, really. Extended orgasms.
Yeah.
About extended orgasms.
Better, but yeah.
Talking about extended orgasms. Now let me ask you, Valerie, is there any way to lessen the orgasm? Mine are too big. I got to make I make too much noise.
Soundproofing.
Okay. All right. At this funny moment, we'll take a break to hear from our sponsor, and then we'll come right back with relationship coach Valerie Greene.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Proficio. Poor finances are the leading cause of stress, divorce, and general troubles. Financial managers, coaches, and consultants are great, but responsibility rests with you. There are new answers. Visit www.proficio.io. That's PERFICIO.io, where you can truly learn the foundational attitudes and methods of accruing wealth and staying wealthy.
Okay, we're back. You're listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with relationship coach Valerie Greene. Valerie, what is a secure attachment? We talked about these attachments, but what is the secure attachment?
Yes, thank you so much. And like I said before, secure attachment, the way I look at it is a skill set. So that's how I look at it from a coaching paradigm. Of course, there's emotional healing that needs to take place around our triggers. And that is also something that I facilitate. Oh my God, that's the cutest mug.
I think that girlfriend gave me it. I keep mementos.
It's, if you're listening, it's like this cute little cartoon. Is that like the Tasmanian devil?
It's an owl. It's a fox with a heart.
A fox with a heart. Oh my God, so cute. Okay. But anyway, yes, secure attachment. I'm not saying that to avoid the topic. It's just adorable. Secure attachment is, which they say about 50% of the population has. I mean, who knows if it's not clinical research, right? It's the sociological research. So some people say they think it might be even less than that. But what secure attachment is it's a skill set and a belief system of being able to, like I said, to feel comfortable feeling your feelings, and that you're comfortable being around other people who are expressing their feelings. You know how to have empathy. You know how to identify what you want, and you feel comfortable with your softer feelings. And you could also, like, you're not triggered. I mean, of course, when you're triggered, everyone gets triggered. You know how to self-soothe, which is a skill that I teach. And so, I mean, I think it's a misnomer out there that if you have a secure attachment style, that you never feel insecure. Of course, everybody feels insecure. We're humans, right? I mean, sure, maybe there's like enlightened people out there that don't. But the difference between insecure attachment and the way securely attached people deal with when they feel insecure. If you have a secure attachment, when you feel insecure, you know how to self-soothe. You know how to still see things from the other person's point of view. You trust that the person you're in relationship with wants to hear what you want. And you know how to ask for what you want in a way that draws the other person closer and invites them into solving the issue. It's a solution-focused approach rather than blaming the other person and making them wrong and pushing them away. And that you feel comfortable in close relationships. You know how to support somebody else when they're upset. You feel comfortable, being the other person's cheerleader. The other person's success doesn't make you feel inadequate. You have high enough self-esteem, to want to create this partnership where you're both growing together. And it's, like I said, it's a skill set. And those are
attachments. Let me ask you this, Valerie. We mentioned the really cute mug I'm drinking from. That I mentioned my then girlfriend gave it to me. That girlfriend, I'm 55 years old now. I'm ready to die. But but that girlfriend was much younger than me. So she had a lot less experience in life. I don't say that derisively, just factually. So in life, I've accumulated vast souvenirs and possessions, and ones that belonged to ex-girlfriends or either were gifts of ex-girlfriends, she took great issue with, and she tried to eliminate it from my life. She would say that was energies or maybe her own insecurities or jealousies, whatever. What's your opinion on that, about having items that from previous romantic relationships?
Oh gosh, I mean, to be honest, I don't really have an opinion on that, because I think that it affects everybody differently. Meaning like the mindset that I teach to couples is that if one person has a really strong opinion on the issue, and you do go deeper, because that's how to transform conflict into intimacy, is that when somebody's like, because that's the third mistake, by the way, is dealing with the issue on the surface rather than being curious about what's going on underneath. And so we'll use that as an example. I'm not saying you did just argue over it, but if you stay on the issue on the surface, it would have been, this has energy from your ex and it makes me uncomfortable. You shouldn't feel uncomfortable because it's just an object, and that kind of thing. I'm not saying that's what you did, but I'm demonstrating what it means to stay on the surface.
I'm the bad guy, just say it.
And so like the skill here, how to transform conflict into intimacy, is to be able to go deeper and to be like, okay, I understand that you think that it has energy. I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt, but let's go deeper. Like, how does it make you feel when you notice that I have this thing from my ex? How does that relate to your history in some way? Has this happened to you before? How does this really relate to your beliefs, right? Because if she has a belief system about energy, then, as you know, beliefs create a reality, and that's going to be real for her. And so, if she's not willing to get beyond that, and because I always like I'm both woo-woo and rational, right?
Me too.
Yeah, totally. So I believe in energy, and I believe that objects are just objects, right? I believe both. It's a paradox. If you ask
By the way,
about
after this interview, I'm going to smash this mug to little pieces.
it's just, because it's like there's so many relationship coaches that actually advocate that. I mean, not necessarily smashing it to pieces, but that could be fun. Get out your anger. That instead of taking out your anger at your partner, destroy your stuff that you don't want. Yay! But actually, have you heard of the Wrecking Room? I think somebody did that. In New York City, they made a room where you could just smash stuff. I don't know how that got impacted by COVID.
I was the guy who started that, actually.
I would believe it. You have such an animated personality. But so the some relationship coaches advocate to get rid of all your stuff from your exes because it has energy. Or what I say is that if it has an emotional attachment, if it leaves you kind of like pining after the old person, get rid of it. Because like you don't want anything in your space that reminds you. And if it really bothers her and it's not that important to you, get rid of it. Because like it's the one of the tools that I teach to couples is to whoever has the stronger opinion on the issue. Like if you don't really care and she does, then she gets her way. If you really care and she doesn't, then you get your way. You know what I mean? Like
it's your battles.
Right, exactly. But in that case, it's like if you're really attached to the mug, then I would help you to go deeper. I would but once you really, because the thing is, once you really understand, it's not like just her beliefs about energy, it's how it impacts her on an emotional level. And if you do want to create a secure attachment with her, I'm not saying you need to get rid of the mug, but you can talk to her about, oh, okay, so you feel insecure when you see things from my ex because you believe that I'm still attached to it. So then you either would explain to her that that's not true for you and how you relate to the mug differently, and then that might allow her to ease up around it. Or it's that maybe if you get down to the need underneath, like she wants to feel your devotion to her, then how could you show her your devotion in another way so she's okay with you having a mug? And so it's not a black and white issue. It's never about the surface issue. It's not about, like I said, the mug.
Very rarely.
Like that as on the internet, it's not about the nail. I don't know if you see that, but that's hilarious. But it's true that it's not about the thing on the surface. It's about your deeper needs, your deeper feelings, your deeper values, your deeper vision for what it is that you want to be experiencing and feeling on a deeper level. And once both people understand that about each other, then there's a win-win solution possible. Otherwise, you're just fighting about the thing on the surface. And there's many solutions about the mug, right? Like I said, you could have shown her your devotion on a deeper level and she doesn't care about the mug. You could have recognized that like you like the mug, so you could buy it yourself and get rid of the old one because it has the energy. You know what I mean? It's $5. Who cares? Like there's just so many win-win solutions that are possible if you go deeper. And the tool that I teach, or the distinction that I teach around resolving conflict, is don't try to solve the issue on the surface until you understand everything about her point of view so that she feels really seen and validated, and she understands everything about your point of view so that you feel really seen and validated. So you're like, oh, this other person cares about me, and then there's goodwill between the people. And that's when our creativity comes online for the win-win solution, but not before then. Because before then, if she's mad at you because she's thinking that you're pining after your ex, and or just that you're reminded of it by the mug, and you're judging her for being insecure, if you try to create a solution from that place, it's not going to work. You're underlying going to feel resentment.
When I was creating a virtual coaching program, Proficio, I had to find out where people are, but I had to, just as importantly, I had to find out where they wanted to go, what their goals are. We're going to take a moment to hear from our sponsor, but when we come back, I want to hear how you teach people how to heal their fighting style and transform conflict into intimacy. That has the presupposition that people want to heal. Whatever is broken or hurt needs healing because that's harming the relationship. So when we come back, I want to hear all about that, Valerie. Okay, just a moment to hear from our sponsors. Thank you.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Proficio. Ever heard of accelerated learning techniques? What if you learned more deeply than ever before? What if you remembered what you learned far better than ever before? Visit www.proficio.io. That's proficio.io, where you can understand perhaps better than ever before.
You are listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with the extraordinary relationship coach, Valerie Greene, and she's going to tell us about how she teaches people how to heal their fighting style and transform conflict into intimacy. Let's hear it, Valerie.
Yes. Okay. So I mentioned the two fighting styles that, like I said, there's 4 attachment styles, but I like to focus on these 2 fighting styles, the tiger and the turtle. Because the fighting styles are about your behavior. Like the tiger either goes on the attack. And what I want to say is they get caught in this recurring conflict. This cycle is what I like to call it. That the more the tiger goes into attack mode, the more the turtle either gets defensive or withdraws. And then the tiger feels more abandoned and disregarded, and then gets more angry, and then the turtle gets more overwhelmed or flooded, and then they withdraw more. And so the longer this goes on, the more of a recurring conflict it is. And when couples are like, oh my God, we keep having the same fight over and over again, maybe we should break up. That's the point at which it's important to understand that you're caught in a cycle. And who this other person is inside of this cycle is not their best self. The cycle brings out the worst in both of you. So if you're like, you're not who I fell in love with, yes, people change and it's important to grow together. But if you're caught in conflict, you're not your best self and they're not their best self. And it's the cycle that's to blame, not each other. And so I teach couples how to, name it, like we're caught in the whirlwind, or and then blame the cycle, like point it out, like we're caught in the whirlwind. And then the skills that both people need to learn how to do in order to transform conflict into intimacy is, first of all, that mindset shift about conflict as an opportunity to learn more about yourself, about your own feelings and needs, and about the other person and their feelings and needs. And so if you have that mindset shift, then the skills that the tiger partner needs to learn, the one who goes on the attack. And first of all, I want to validate that if you're with someone who is withdrawing, everybody, myself included, we have this tendency to be like, okay, I don't know how else to connect with them. I just want to get a rise out of them. I want to get, I'll do anything to make them, show up. Right. And so I don't want to make you wrong if you're caught in that. That's just human nature. It's just the skill to develop is to get in touch with your softer feelings underneath the anger, because anger is a secondary reactive emotion, and anger is a completely valid emotion. It's just that making the other person wrong is aggression versus just saying, hey, I feel angry. Like, that's okay. It's just that underneath anger is shame or hurt or fear. And if you can soothe that, like, because you can't really like soothe anger. I mean, obviously you can get curious about anger. Why am I angry? What it is that I want? And society has and is being changed by angry people fighting for what they want. And that's good. I don't want to think that fighting's bad. You want to fight for what you want. And anger is a good emotion, like every other emotion. It's just important to get in a romantic relationship to the softer feelings underneath too, because that is what is going to draw the other person closer. I like to say that intimacy is into me see.
Yes. Talking about being wrong, as a lover, I don't like to move just to save energy. Is that wrong? She shouldn't, is the other one angry that I don't move? Of course, I'm kidding. The first course of Auxilium is a financial security home study course. Now, in relationships, we all want security. You want security in the relationship. And I think that's what we're striving to have, and have a lot of confidence in that goal, right? So,
totally. Right. And so security is in relationships kind of like a paradox, because it's important for us to have an individual sense of security, and that's the self-soothing, which I'll, go more in detail of. And also, we all have attachment needs in order to feel secure in a romantic partnership. That when I have a softer feeling and desire that I trust you care, that you want to hear it, not like in the middle of the night or something, but that I trust that you'll make time to listen to me, that I matter to you, that if I take the risk to share my softer feelings, that you're going to be curious, that you're going to give me empathy when I'm struggling with something and support, and that you're going to be my cheerleader when, the attachment research shows that people that have secure attachment are able to take more risks out in the world because they know they have this secure base to be able to, if they fail, that the other person will be supportive and help them process that failure, so they won't make it mean that they are a failure, and then they'll be able to move on and grow. And so that's what it means to be secure in a relationship. And it's important that both people are able to feel secure on the inside in order to create that security in a relationship. So that's why it's a paradox. It's like, yes, you're 100% responsible for your own sense of security, and your partner is also responsible for your sense of security when you're in a committed relationship. And it's both. You're always your primary caretaker emotionally, and your partner is always your secondary. That's described really well in Richard Schwartz's book, You're the One That You've Been Waiting For. You are the one you've been waiting for. Which I highly recommend. So the healing for the tiger is to be able to create that internal sense of security, because tigers fear abandonment. It's a really strong fear. And usually it was created like this fighting was created as a defense to feeling abandoned in some way in the past. And the only way to get the attention of some caretaker from your past was to make a lot of noise. And so it got, that pattern got set off then, and it's not your fault, because everybody deserves as a child to be attended to. Children can't feel secure on their own. They need to be soothed by an adult. And if you got that sometimes, but not enough, then you usually feel anxious about it. And that's the anxious attachment style, or usually the tiger. And if you didn't get it at all, or not at all, but like if just sometimes turtles grow up in a family where people just don't talk about feelings. It's like boys don't cry. It doesn't have to be severe neglect or anything, although sometimes it is. But it's just the healing for the tiger partner, the one who fights, is about developing that internal sense of security so that you can take a risk to express your softer feelings and desires in a way that inspires the other person to come closer. And then the healing for the turtle, which usually is the either the dismissive avoidant or the fearful avoidant, can be the turtle, or the fearful avoidant is kind of a combination of the two. So sometimes they could be the tiger too. And I want to say too that these are not fixed styles. In one relationship, you might be one, and in another relationship, you might be another. That's why I look at them as skill sets. But we're predominantly set up as a pattern of one, depending on how you interacted with your caretakers as a child, that you either got attention through fighting, or not fighting, but like raising your voice and getting louder, or you learn that, well, people aren't really going to be there for me, so I have to learn how to take care of myself, and I'm going to be independent, and needs are needy. And if you have a problem, that's your problem, and I deal with that on your own. That's more of the belief system of the avoidant and the dismissive avoidant and the turtle, the fighting style of the turtle. And so the healing for them is learning how to legitimize feelings and needs. And the same healing is to feel, because the turtle actually feels secure on the inside too. They're just not aware that they feel secure on the inside. On the outside, they seem really confident and independent. They're not aware that their nervous system is in flight and that they're actually not feeling secure. They think they're secure. And so that's why avoidant partners, usually the people that come to me for relationship coaching, are more the anxious, preoccupied style, because they're motivated to learn how to self-soothe, because the anxious type is also called preoccupied. Relationships are really important to them, and they're generous and open-hearted. It's just that they need to learn how to feel more secure on the inside. The turtle partner usually doesn't believe that relationships are as important as other things. And, work is more important, or, their family is important, but like you want a relationship, but you shouldn't need one, And so it's with the turtle partner, it's more working with their beliefs about, legitimizing needs in relationship. And then it's learning how to feel their feelings, the same skills for the tiger partner, the self-soothing and learning how to express themselves in a way that draws their partner closer. But also they know how to create healthy boundaries, because usually the turtle partner fears being overwhelmed or engulfed or controlled. And so when the tiger partner is coming, like, you did something wrong, which is kind of the essence of it. The turtle partner needs to learn how to say, hey, I want to hear you. It's just that when I'm blamed, then it shuts me down. So can you please tell me what you want to say in a softer tone of voice? Can you please say it in a way that isn't making me wrong, because I want to hear you? And so they need to learn how to have strong, both styles can learn how to have stronger boundaries. But because the turtle partner usually gets easily overwhelmed, they need to learn on their own to do the self-soothing. But in an argument, to be able to say, hey, I'm getting overwhelmed. Could we please take a time out? And then instead of abandoning the tiger partner, because then that's going to bring up more of their abandonment wounds, instead of just being like, okay, I'm going to take a time out, I'm out of here. I've done that, believe me. I've done all these mistakes, but they need to learn how to say, I want to hear what you have to say. Let's take a time out and come back in an hour. Let's take a time out and come back within a specific time frame that you agree on, so that the tiger partner doesn't feel abandoned. And then it's important to learn what to do during that timeout, so that you learn how to self-soothe and you learn how to get in touch with your softer feelings and desires, so that when you're ready to come back, you can have a productive conversation where you work through it and you create a solution together.
An interesting thing about turtles is they have a very long lifespan.
Oh my God, I know they do. like longer than humans.
That was great, Valerie. Okay, we're going to hear from a sponsor, and then we're going to come back with our final segment with Valerie Greene.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Proficio. What are the secrets to wealth? Benjamin Franklin taught them, but people are ignorant or just forget. What if you make sure neither afflicts you? Visit www.proficio.io. That's PERFICIO.io, where you can actually become certain you are on your way to wealth.
Okay, you're listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with relationship coach Valerie Greene, and we're entering into the final segment. By the way, you have such a great statement. I didn't want to interrupt you, but it reminded me of a problem that I have, is that, talking about fulfilling the needs of the other, it seems to me that if I fulfill her needs, or if I give a woman pleasure, she's going to expect it next time. And that's just another joke, Valerie. I'm sorry. I'm a joke.
No, it's actually true.
I know, but I mean, it's something I outgrew. Yes, probably a few years ago it was true for me. Now it's comedy.
Right, totally. Well, yeah, because we could probably do an interview about expectations. That's, expectations, lead to disappointment and all of that.
Oh, totally.
Because I do work mostly with women. And so, I mean, that's why I'm saying I do believe that. And it's about learning how to ask for what you want. Because I want to talk more about what I mean by a need. A need is not like, I need you to do something different, like, because that's going into your circle. A need, and I take this from nonviolent communication, a need is an experience you want to have. That, is it okay if I'm using the example of the mug? It seems like
I'll bring the mug back. Those of you who are just listening, you've got to go to YouTube and see the mug. It's the fox with the heart.
It is adorable. So
it's handmade too, I think.
Right. So I mean, the thing is that if she's saying, well, I need you to get rid of it, and you're saying, I need you to respect my possessions, that's not a need, that's a strategy.
Right.
To get something that you need. And so the deeper need for her might be, like we talked about, that she needs to feel secure, she needs to feel desired, she needs to feel prioritized. And so the curiosity would be about, oh, you want to feel prioritized. Okay, what does that look like for you when you're prioritized? Well, like, what is your dream about that? You know, which you don't have to say what's your dream, but it's like, that's kind of like the, although Gottman has an intervention about dreams within conflict, which I love. But it's about getting like, what does that look and feel like when she has, when she feels prioritized, and then why is that important to her? And does that relate to her history in some way and her beliefs and all that? Like really getting like a need is an experience you want to have, and what is that experience and what does that provide for her? That's what a need is. And then you can realize there's multiple strategies of meeting that need, which that distinction comes from NVC too, the distinction between a need and a strategy. Because when you're really in touch with, oh my God, there's like 1,000 solutions you could come up with for her to feel prioritized. It really doesn't have anything to do with the mug. And it's the same thing for you. Like, you want to have your possessions respected. What does that mean to you? What are your beliefs? What are your values? What do you want to experience? Why is that important to you? So once both people really understand that and they can validate each other's point of view on the other side, then that's how you could come up to a solution about money, about the cleanliness, about parenting styles, about quality time versus space. Like, there's all these issues that couples fight about that if they just go deeper into what they both need, which is what they want to experience, then there's multiple ways to create that experience, multiple win-win solutions that you can come up with. And so that's, you know, it's something I'm passionate about, is redefining the term of need, because it's not like having a need is not being needy. Being needy means that I'm attached to getting my way.
Right.
Versus like, oh, I'm aware that there's many different ways that I could have the experience that I want. And if I'm able to like have that attitude when I communicate it, then we can come up with a solution together. That's the healthy way to look at a need.
Excellent. Finally, let's get into the last part of our interview. And what's a key takeaway that a listener can use right now?
Great. Well, I do have a free gift, and so that's the takeaway that we'll talk about. But yeah, so but I'll describe a little bit about it, because I think that is kind of the essence of what people can take away. Is I made a little acronym out of lover, without the vowels, LVR. And so what that means is that when somebody else is making you wrong, which is usually what starts an argument, or they're just withdrawing and then you feel upset about that, or there's an issue on the surface, like about the mug or money or whatever, then you want to listen, that's the L, to the other person's point of view underneath, to those deeper questions that I was saying. Why is your position important to you? How do you feel when you get it? How do you feel when you don't get it? Tell me more about how it relates to your history. Tell me more about what is that need underneath. Like, what do you want to be experiencing, right? So that's the L part, the LVR. And the V is validate. Validate their point of view, even if you don't agree, because that is important to them. Like, you might not agree, and I'm not saying you didn't, but like if you were more rational and she was more feeling oriented, maybe she agrees that an old mug has energy and you don't agree. But does it matter? Like, from her point of view, the mug has energy, and from your point of view, it's just a thing. And so you need to have her say, okay, I understand from your point of view, it's just a thing. And you need to say to, I mean, not need, but if you want to transform the conflict, that you can say, oh, I get it. It makes sense that the mug has energy, and tell me more about that. Like, what is energy, and how does it affect everything in life? And like, you really want to validate that this is how she sees things. Then she's going to feel like you're on her team. So that's the V. And R is to make a request for what you want rather than complaining about what you don't want. Or it can be giving reassurance that like it's for her, if she's upset, that she would make a request for what she wants, right? And if you're upset, you make a request for what you want. If you're the other person who's listening and the other person's upset, you give reassurance that, okay, I'm committed to meeting your need. Or if you're not, like, I care about your needs and I want to find a solution. Like, that's reassurance. And that calms the other person down so that you can talk about it. So it's LVR. And that's actually what my free gift is about, if you want to talk about that.
That's fantastic. I mean, wow, what a useful little acronym. Not even acronym, it's a modified word, but
yeah.
Very useful, very useful. Remember that, people, LVR.
Yeah, like lover without the vowels.
Right. And don't be a selfish lover like I joked about earlier, right? You got to give
Oh
a
my
little
God.
bit. So great stuff. How do people contact you and what do they have to look forward to?
Great. Thanks so much. Yeah. So my website is coachvaleriegreene.com. And I think you'll put the link to that underneath, right? So I don't have to spell it out. But there's an E at the end of green. And on there, I actually have 3 free gifts. So I have one for women, one for women in committed relationships, one for couples, and one for single women. So that's the best way to reach out to me, is just the contact page on my website, or you can email me at valerie@coachvaleriegreene.com. And I do have a free gift, and I created it like 6 years ago. So it's cute because you'll see me in a cute little detective hat. But I wear a detective hat because it's a video training about 3 steps to transform conflict into intimacy, which are basically the LVR, right? Or to fighting to fulfillment, I don't know, 3 steps to transform conflict. And it's a video training, and I really demonstrate how to apply those 3 steps. I also have an infographic that you can just put on your phone with the LVR. So like if you're in the middle of a conflict, you can take out of your phone, and then they'll make you wrong for taking out your phone. And why are you taking out your phone when you should be talking to me? Just kidding. You can tell them this beforehand. Hey, I have this acronym on my phone that I'm going to take out when we're in the middle of a conflict, and it'll really help us solve it. Let's learn it together, and that could be fun because it's like a cute little cartoon. And it really has this LVR in it. And so then you can have it in your back pocket, how to resolve a conflict anytime you want. And then the free gift also includes an e-course where I go more in depth about the tiger and the turtle, and what are the steps for each partner to take in order to resolve the conflict, and additional resources that you can go to besides me, because I can't help everyone, although I want to. I mean, of course, that's a belief. Okay, I can't help everyone.
That might change
Energetically. I want my my energy, if we're going to go in the energy direction, to be able to connect people to their hearts and to their higher selves across the planet. And that is my intention, of course.
Such wonderful assistance. Valerie, you've been a wonderful guest, and it's so great to reconnect with you because, we're friends for some time. We're on similar journeys. We're both, I'm middle-aged. You're much younger than me, but we've known each other for some time, and I really love it how our careers have flourished and we've prospered, in parallel to each other. So it's really wonderful to have you on the podcast. I urge any viewer or listener to go to your website, coachvaleriegreene.com. That's with an E at the end of green, and get your free gifts, which sound excellent. Or they can go to your social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, but probably going to the website would be easiest.
Yeah, and if you post the link below, because it's coachvaleriegreene.com. It's not. There is another Valerie Greene who is also a wonderful teacher about how to. She's a stroke survivor, and so she's passionate about helping people with that issue. So I just want to make sure people have the right Valerie Greene.
We're going to have to get rid of her. Okay, we'll talk about that after the podcast.
Oh my God, I don't know. I actually really want to get to meet her, just because it's cool that we're both Valerie Greenes, and when you Google Valerie Greene, we both come up, and so I'm like, oh, it'd be nice to meet her.
Valerie, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. You want to say goodbye to the audience?
Yes, I really want to empower everybody that you have the tools within yourself to create the relationship you want, and that's what I stand for. And I invite everybody to reach out to me, and I just wish that you have the most self-love and love-filled day.
You have been a most wonderful guest. I really appreciate it. And I want to remind everyone that every one of us is responsible for ourselves, and we can all use some help. Thanks, Valerie. See you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast, where insights, attitudes, and methods for success get illuminated. Learn what leaders and change workers have done and are doing now to create magnificent futures. Remember to visit our website at self-helpcoaching.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Self-Help Coaching Podcast.